The meeting recording has begun.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our regular Town Council meeting on March 24th, 2026. I'd like to officially call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Madam Town Clerk, could you please do a roll call?
Councilman Gutenberg,
Here.
Councilman McCormick,
Here.
Councilman Sampson,
Here.
Councilman Johnson, Mayor James.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. And if I could ask you all to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Council, if you have had a second to look at the agenda, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And next on the agenda is our consent agenda. And that's where we have items that are of importance, but there's not really a need to discuss them because they're pretty straightforward. And so we put it on a consent agenda so that we could approve it all at once. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to public comment. If you would like to speak, we ask that you state your name, whether you live within the incorporated town limits, and if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, that would be greatly appreciated. And I know, Mr. Mitchell, you have signed up, so come on down.
Okay, thank you.
Floor is yours whenever you want.
His name.
Eventually, there it goes.
It's that gentle touch.
Okay, my name's Hugh Mitchell, and I am not a resident of the town, but I do have own property and represent businesses here in the town at 205 East Charles Street, which is between the election board and the Olmsted property across from Christ Church. I'm here to speak about the Charles Street redesign and how it could potentially impact the businesses at that address. We had a meeting last week. Mr. Stevens was there in the town on the streets of in front of the election board there. And the state came down, the MDOT team of engineers came down to have discussions. And I think it was the first time they were down to actually walk the town and look at some of the designs that they've been doing up in at their headquarters. And it's a little bit of a concern, and there were EMS first responders at this meeting as well, a couple of them, probably half a dozen people from MDOT, and then about 20 or so businessmen and property owners in the town. And their concerns kind of ranged up and down the town, but one of the principal issues in front of our property And I think at some of the other, at least what the state is planning now at some of the other properties down the street around the theater. For one, there's an island that's planned kind of in front of Christ Church there. And the EMS people were very concerned about being able to get from 301 to the hospital or from the hospital back out to 301 with these islands in the middle of the street. They don't have a lot of clearance on their vehicles, I guess. So they were concerned, and there's the way it's designed right now in front of our building, there would be a raised sidewalk. There's never been a raised sidewalk there. The fire department obviously didn't have a raised sidewalk in front of it when it was the old fire department in the town. Our building has never had a raised sidewalk in front of it. And I don't know where, if there's an EMS truck coming through town on Charles Street, where they're going to go. With people just can't pull off onto a sidewalk to get out of their way. And there's right now, the way that the design is, there's an island in the middle of the street and a sidewalk on one side as well. It also does away with one of the lanes that heads from Washington Avenue down to 301. So there'll be only one lane through that little strip of in front of the church there and our property. And I think that may, kind of present more of a bottleneck than people realize. It was difficult having a meeting on the streets of La Plata at 11 o'clock in the morning with Chuck can attest to lumber trucks rolling down the streets of La Plata, concrete trucks coming in this evening. There was a tandem FedEx trailer that was rolling down Charles Street. There were times when we just couldn't hear what the state was saying. And one of the attorneys that was there asked if there'd been a traffic study done on Charles Street, and the state had to call back to their headquarters and asked if there'd been one done. And apparently there hasn't been a traffic survey or study of any kind done recently on that stretch of Charles Street that seems to be a bit of a congestion problem. What else? The volume of traffic in front of our building, I would guess most of you have probably had a pizza from Pizza Hotline. They do hundreds of customers come in there weekly for pickup. I think that the plan as the state currently has it probably would mean driving around a block and getting your pizza home when it's cold. If you can't pull in and pull out like you do now. I mean, pickup is a pretty quick thing and has to happen quite fast in order to get home with a hot pizza. But, and I just don't, 5 parking spots, I think the state has planned in front of the building for a building that's almost 8,000 square feet is a bit of a problem, I think, for the businesses that are located there and loading. I mean, I've got a garage bay door there. I'm not sure the design, the way it looks right now, will accommodate, backing a trailer in there, loading, unloading, that kind of thing. There's also Pizza Hotline has deliveries there as well that have to be made to their store. Tattered Elegance has furniture that gets moved in and out of that building. If you've ever been in there and seen some of the custom work that Erica does and Wilma's upholstery work, so that, there has to be access to that building as well. And I don't know how much time I've got left. I could probably go on and on.
They can
run
out.
That's all right.
But
thank you.
just to finish, I presume that most of you live in town if you're on the council. And I just kind of a poll for my sake is, how many of you drive across your neighbor's property to get to yours? Anybody? No? Do you drive across your neighbor's property to exit your property? Well, that's what is happening to my property in the town as a business owner. And I really, have been in this town a long time, have had property and businesses in this town for a very long time. And it's always been a friendly town for business. And I would like to see it stay that way.
Thank you
And if there are
very
any
much.
changes that could be made, I'm, glad to speak to you guys as well as the state.
Thank you so much.
So-
Thank you for bringing your concern
Okay,
forward.
thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman.
All right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening? All right. Thank you very much. Next is the introduction of La Plata Police Department officers. Mr. Stevens.
Sure, I'll set this up, Chief. If you want to start walking up to the podium. Council, as you're aware, there were some organizational changes made down at the police department earlier this year. And as a result of that, two of our officers were promoted into new positions. And because of the significance and the responsibility that comes with those positions, we wanted to introduce them to you, not only to the council, but to the public at large. So Chief, if you will take it away and do introductions. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. You said a little bit of what I was already going to say, so that's great. No, I appreciate it. It shortens my speech here, but good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to take this time to recognize some of the achievements that our staff has been experiencing. We've been going through a reorganization, so trying to move people into the places that I need them to help the department move forward in our 21st century policing. So I just want to take the time to honor our newly promoted Major Mike Payne. If you can come up here, and also our newly promoted Lieutenant David Royce. Major Payne has been with the police department since 2001. That's over 25 years of service to the town of La Plata. He's a great leader within our department, and within that time, he brings with him a plethora of knowledge and experience to continue moving this department into the future. His awards and commendations are plentiful during his time here. Lieutenant Royce began his career in 2012 with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, later joining the La Plata Police Department in 2019. He has quickly distinguished himself through strong leadership, investigative expertise, and a commitment to the community. Among several other things, he's an instructor. He's a drone pilot and has been recognized for his actions in preventing a catastrophic incident in 2020. He was also named to the IACP, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, 40 Under 40 Award, which I know I've brought that before you before, but I just wanted to get that on the record. It's a very distinguishing award. So just wanted to introduce them to you guys. If you haven't met them before, these are two of my great leaders, and I'm happy to have them on board, and just wanted you to join me in congratulating them on this well-earned promotion. So thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, under matters of council discussion, we have two requests for letters of support. Hopefully you've been able to read them, and I'm going to call the library down to begin with. And council, if you have any questions before we take a vote of to support or not, I will entertain any questions that you have for the library. Councilman Gutman?
Yeah, I guess my first question would be, are you planning to speak first and
Yeah,
then we ask
that would be
questions? Is that what-
No, we are,
We are just
Yep.
going off of what we have.
we're on the, they presented their letter here, and any questions that you have, please introduce yourself so that they have.
Can they, point of inquiry, can they speak about the letter for the public record? So that way people that's tuning in can know what we're talking about?
Okay. it
We,
is
the
attached-
five of us know what's going
Well,
on.
it's attached to the agenda, but I will yield to the request. If you could keep it brief, since we have been briefed on this. Your name and then your request, please.
Good evening, Mayor James and Council. I'm Shannon Bland, Development Manager for Charles County Public Library.
And I'm Lloyd Jansen, Deputy Director for the Charles County Public Library.
We have a request for a letter of support. That is for us to pursue FY28 funding, the capital grant funding program through the Maryland State Library Agency to go towards the new La Plata Library. So having that funding will allow us to continue that project and be able to expand the services and the resources that we're able to provide for the La Plata community. As you may or may not know, our current building is quite old. So we just want to make sure that we're offering the community the best that Charles County Public Library can offer.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything else, Mr. Jansen?
No, she said it all.
Okay, questions for, do you
Yes.
have Councilman Good?
Yeah, so maybe it's more of just a statement really about this. So, you know, we as a town recently just approved the major site plan for the library, and it represents a partnership not only between the state and the county, which is what you're here seeking our support for, but it's also a partnership with the town, in that the town has invested about $1.5 million in procuring the site for the library. And I think we're going to talk about doing some other things in the neighborhood as well that help connect that to our pedestrian network as well. And so, you know, I'm really happy that you're here. And in pursuit of this, you have my full support, and I think, you know, we may even see you next year, as I understand, in the county's capital improvement plan. Potentially this year we start construction with money, and so this is a request for this year. But because this crosses multiple years, we may see you back to request, you know, additional state funding if the library qualifies for it, and you'll have my support then. It's such a wonderful community asset. I'm really excited that it's actually going to get started now. We know it kind of got slowed down with COVID, and so it's been a lot of years in the making, and it's really exciting. So thank you for coming in.
Great. Thank you for your support.
Councilman McCormick?
Yeah, thank you for coming back. I remember when you all presented a little bit earlier, and I just want to echo Councilman Gutenberg's comments here that I think this is the first of many partnerships we're going to have. Glad to see you working with all the different levels of government here. Really, obviously happy to see you here in a packed house for a town council meeting on a Tuesday. So thank you. You have my full support as well. And then to echo Councilman Gutenberg's comments, I hope we continue to invest in that area. And I think there's a lot of projects on the potential docket here that's going to really make that area a great place for our residents and frankly for everybody in Charles County. So thank you for coming. Thanks for this letter. Well written, straightforward, to the point. You have my full support.
Thank you so much.
Councilman Sampson?
Yep, I have no questions.
Councilman Johnson?
Same, no questions. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in for FY28. We're planning ahead, right? It's usually it's usually rushing through that. I have been excited about this since, you know, I've been on the council now 9 years. It has been a long time coming. I am hoping that there is a shovel in that ground this year. So I am going to ask council, I think we've already heard what they're going to say, but I am going to ask if you are in favor of this letter of support, supporting this letter of support, please indicate by saying aye. If not, nay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you very much. We will
Thank
get
you.
that
Thank you all.
out to you. And next up is a letter request for Phoenix International. If you could come up, give us a short request, what you were requesting, introduce yourself, and we'll go with some questions.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor James. Good evening, council members. My name is Angelica Jackson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Phoenix International Incorporated, a local nonprofit that is based here in La Plata.
Good evening, everyone. I am Monique Walker, a local and thriving artist in the Charles County community, and also a counselor on Maryland State Arts Council.
Yes, so typically you may see me representing the public charter school, Phoenix International School of the Arts, but tonight I am here in support of the arts community in general as an individual artist and in support of local arts organizations here in Charles County. And so briefly, we are here to request a letter of support for a new mixed income intergenerational workforce housing and cultural center project that we are proposing here in Charles County. We are calling it Live, Work, Create. And we recently submitted an application to our U.S. Senators Angela Alsobrooks and Chris Van Hollen for their earmarked funds, where we would like to append this letter of support to that application. We requested funding to support a pre-development phase so that we can see where in our county we can put up this project. And so that would include a feasibility study, that would include additional surveying of local artists and arts organizations as part of the Charles County Public Art and Cultural Master Plan that the Charles County government recently adopted. And it will also include the beginning stages of creating designs for this project. And we're happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you very much. Councilman Gutenberg, we'll
Yeah.
start off with you.
Thank you. Yeah, a couple questions. So with this project, as I'm understanding it, it's not necessarily that it's going to be sited in La Plata. This is exploring a range of opportunities. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
We have our eyes on La Plata because La Plata has been so supportive of the arts community, and there's already so many thriving arts organizations here between Port Tobacco Players, Shop 53. And we also know that there was a study done to create an arts and entertainment district here in La Plata. So we believe that La Plata is prime for this type of project.
Understood. And then, so with what you're requesting support on, you are going after a grant from the federal government.
Yeah.
And then that only represents 80% of the funding that you need to complete this portion, right? And so that other 20%, where is that coming from?
Yes, we are in the process of applying to foundation grants to cover that 20%. And so my organization has a history of applying to grants and receiving them. And so we feel confident that we would be able to get that additional funding.
Is the federal grant contingent on that?
No, it's not.
It's not.
No.
Okay. Okay. And then for the model that we saw in this handout that you just gave. So once you get past a study that effectively, maps out what the range of possibilities are, how are you going to fund that? And like what I'm getting at there is, in looking at what the county's doing, they have a specific model for how they're going after affordable housing, and you're checking all the boxes of the areas that we have a deficit of that kind of housing in the area, in the region. And I'm wondering how you see that portion being funded, the actual implementation.
Sure. So we're hoping that the artifacts that we create out of this pre-development phase, so the designs and the study itself, will allow us to essentially go to market to investors. So that's this portion is crucial so that we can have actual artifacts to say, this is the vision, this is the model, and then and seek funding that way.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming here. Appreciate it. And thanks for the write-up here. I'll ask a pretty direct question. So when I read through this, it was a little bit of a sticker shock, $1 million essentially for a feasibility study. Where do we come up with the $1 million metric? Was that something that was presented to you that you've come up with past experience? Where did that number come from?
Yes, definitely past experience. I have been through the process of acquiring a commercial real estate property and renovating it, doing adaptive reuse. So what I did was reach out to vendors that I've used in the past to get quotes on what it would take to build this facility. And so that included the architectural design fees, the actual building of a model. It included any marketing that we would have to do to reach out to the community and things like that. So I actually went to the vendors that we would partner with to get quotes, and that's how we came up with that amount.
Thank you for that. No, I appreciate the clarity there. And it's no secret, like we all saw what happened with the county presentation on this. So I had a couple residents actually ask me, hey, what exactly is this? So I want to give you an opportunity on the record here. You highlight up front, like this is not about the charter school itself, though you represent that. This is a nonprofit organization, a different entity. Are you asking for housing? Are you asking for a community center? Are you asking for a building that houses art? I want to give you an opportunity here with residents in a relatively packed house, which is good to see, but folks that are certainly listening online. Just sand it down for me. What are we asking for here? Let's get rid of that confusion.
Thank you for the opportunity to respond to that question. So we are asking for an affordable sort of workforce housing that is coupled with a cultural center. And I believe I put in the request, there is an example of this model being successful here in Maryland. If you look at Columbia, Maryland, they have the artist lofts, and it is affordable. We call it workforce housing because it is affordable housing, but it's tagged to programming in a sort of thematic, a specific resident that would live there. And then they are attached to Toby's Dinner Theater. And Toby's Dinner Theater is a landmark dinner theater in Columbia that also is expanding its programming to include a full cultural center. And so it allows us to be able to house artists, educators, and creatives and small business owners who are being priced out of this area and who are struggling to make ends meet, but they provide such huge service and opportunity to this area. And so it would allow us to house those folks, but also meet the need of that was explored here with the Public Arts and Cultural Master Plan.
Okay.
And so the folks that are living will be in that residence will be able to continue to give back to their community through the programming in the cultural center.
So this is where I think we could really hone in on a couple of the questions I got specifically. So the 150 new housing units that we're talking about potentially being put through the study and all that, right? It comes out, let's assume it's a positive thumbs up from the study. Okay, great. The 150 folks that are living there, they have to work at this community center. They have to volunteer time to it. Is there a requirement and what is that requirement?
Yeah, so still building that piece out, but they would not be required to work there.
Okay, so this is 150 potential new housing units in this region or this town, if it ends up being in La Plata, that could be open to anybody.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
those are all my
Yeah.
questions. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And so I just had a couple questions just to gain more clarity. So the community contribution vision
Mhm.
is that these artists, these residents, they will contribute by putting on shows, programs, entertainment. That's the vision.
Yeah.
That's their contribution to the community.
Mhm. Yep, classes. If it's, again, this is artists, educators, and small business owners are who we would be targeting for the residences. And they would have the opportunity to use the studios or class space and things like that that's in the cultural center and offer these classes, youth programming, art gallery, those types of programming in the cultural center. They would have direct access to be able to give back to our community in that way.
And if I could just add on to that, the other piece is that the cultural center and the work that they do there is in addition to their practice in the community. It doesn't just tie them down just to that one space, but if they are someone who's already living in La Plata, they have a thriving practice or business, it's just a place for them to take advantage of all the advantages of living in a lower income space while they can continue to do their work, contributing to the town beyond just the center.
Okay, so if I have the vision correct, then just for this example, I'll say that it's here in La Plata. Am I correct in saying what you envision then is a cultural arts center in which different groups, civic organizations or whatever, could use that cultural center to partner with them, whether that is the school district, whether that is groups like Salvation Army, cultural arts type groups like the Port Tobacco Players, NAACP, whatever they want to do for kids. And is this something that could be used for summer programs?
Absolutely.
Would it be able to be tied into our, oh, my mind's went blank.
Concert series.
Yeah, our concert series.
The youth concert series. I mean, this is a space where we see thriving arts, culture, youth programs, and it really has come out of this study and us we're deeply embedded in the arts community here. So we know many of the directors of the arts organizations in La Plata and in Charles County, and the greatest need that they've shared is space. We need space. We don't, we try to use the schools, but we have to go on the school schedule. And then some of the current arts institutions, they aren't able to give space because of capacity or cost. And so we are all in need of a central space. And that is backed by research through the study that Charles County did.
And just to add on one last piece to that, it's a space that supplies the needs of the specific organization. So for example, a dance program, for example, using a multi-purpose space, it doesn't necessarily provide their needs. It may be carpeted, it may be concrete, and it's not the safest place for anyone, children, seniors, to participate. And those sorts of spaces, be it dance, be it music, are limited throughout the county.
Okay, so I just have two last questions. So, and you may have planned this out already, or you may not have, just depending on how far along you are in the development. So I know there's always a concern when people hear affordable housing and all that. You're just talking about affordable housing, or really it's mixed income housing. It's not really
Yeah.
affordable in the traditional sense. But the expectation from your model is that the owner slash landlord, for lack of a better term, they will be contributing full taxes to the tax base, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that is your model. That's your,
Mhm.
so you're not, your model doesn't look for any incentives from the town if it was in La Plata or the county, correct?
Well, depending on
Beyond-
where we're located, yes. If there are incentives, because I do know that there is priority for affordable housing in Charles County, in La Plata. If we would certainly want to pursue those if they align.
Okay,
Mhm.
but the expectation is to contribute to the tax base.
Yes.
Okay, and the last question I have that you may or may not have already planned, what is the green space like for this? For this, in other words, if this goes all the way through, and I know we have the Cultural Arts Center, is there any green space around the center that you'd like to have? So kids could do outdoor activities or fit in, or is this just mainly indoor activities that you're looking at?
Yes, green space has been considered with our initial plans. That goes as far as an amphitheater, but anything so that experiences happen in the building as well as outside. And that goes as far as developing green space to really expand public art throughout the county, which is really evident, around the town hall. But as we go beyond, certain spaces, we don't always get to see it. Maybe beyond Charles Street and what they have, the mural that's nearby.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Councilman Johnson.
Yes, good evening to you both, and thank you for presenting to us your acts. A few questions. As I was listening to the conversation, it's not necessarily focused on La Plata, but this presentation I have here, it seems as though it wants to be placed in La Plata. Do I have it wrong or?
No, you have it right. So again, because La Plata has been so receptive to the arts and it already has a thriving arts community, it would be ideal if we were in La Plata.
Okay.
But we have to do the study to see what makes sense.
Yeah, studies are important. I'm not a fan of studies, but they give you good information. The county just had an affordability housing work group, and they just came up and they consented to some funding. I think 2 weeks ago with some projects that rolled off. Was you all a part of that conversation? Did we try to engage to get a part of that conversation?
Yes. So we have, there is yes, we have been a part of those conversations. I wasn't on that committee, but we have been attending those committee meetings and some of the research that is in this presentation is from the affordable housing study that they did.
Okay, so we want to take a duplicative approach?
No, so the study is not specific to affordable housing. We know what the need is here in Charles County. It's more so identifying where we should put this facility. It's about programming the space out. It is about making sure that all of the voices in the voices in the arts community are part of the building of this facility.
Okay. I think I'm just a little confused because we're using the affordable word, but it's mixed use workforce housing, but it's focused mainly on the arts.
Yes.
Okay.
And actually like the pre-development of building it. So not so much on, we need to do a feasibility study of how much affordable housing we need in Charleston. It's not that, it's more so let's do the pre-development phase of building it and then go to market so that we can actually implement.
And $71 million, that is just.
That's what we assume the full cost would be.
Okay, that's a large.
It is a
price
large
to
sum.
get.
It is, but it's done. We've seen, there's so many examples of this model being extremely successful. And it's a shame that Charles County residents, La Plata residents have to leave our county to have those types of experiences. And so me being from here, this is another effort to build what I believe our residents deserve.
All right, well, I'm glad you got the opportunity to explain what you're asking for.
Yes, thank you.
So I do have a few questions here. Have you been working with, I know you're a nonprofit, have you been working with the Charles County Art Alliance? They had a vision, I want to say, was it a 2000? to
The
2020. Yep,
Arts Vision 2020.
that cultural center.
Mhm.
How does what you're looking for pair with what they have on their plans?
So first, I am a former employee of the Charles County Arts Alliance. I'm the former administrative director, and I keep in touch with them in terms of what's happening currently. And the last conversation that I had with their current director, Diane Roush, was in terms of the different needs. And out of that conversation, I believe that was in November or December, out of that conversation, one of the things that we were locked in step on was that what do we need to realize things from Arts Vision 2020 and where we are now 2026. What do we need and how do we need to collaborate? So a lot of the information that Angelica has presented and shared, you all have in your handout, the Arts Alliance, their voice is present amongst all the other artists in the county. We've met several times around the time that the Cultural Master Plan work was happening from the government. Artists were also meeting simultaneously, and the Charles County Arts Alliance, they're pretty much informed with all steps that we've been making in terms of steps to move forward. And the conversation has been, how can we support? How can we help? If they see ways that are maybe being duplicated and not necessarily, we have their wisdom and advice in that as well.
Have you reached out to the local arts council here that La Plata has as well? They're the ones that are putting up the murals and all of that. Have you incorporated your vision with them?
Individually. So, like Monique said, we have been having conversations with individual artists throughout this entire process. And so we've individually incorporated their vision and what they see for the town. We haven't received a letter of support from them yet, but we are seeking them to sign on to a letter of support, all of the different arts organizations and councils.
That's good.
Yeah.
To get them behind. So with any plan, with any vision, there's got to be a plan, right? So, and I know that you have your eyes set someplace. If you're looking for 150 homes, mixed income, and you're looking for a cultural center, you've got to be eyeing someplace in La Plata. And you said it right, that we do have an outline of a cultural area in La Plata. And it is the downtown area because it does support the arts, and we've got the museums, we've got it down to almost 301, I believe, but it's not a vast area. I mean, we're only a little less than 8 square miles right now. So within that 8 square miles that we call home, where do you have your eyes focused on putting a cultural center, and therefore where are these new houses that you're looking at building? Are you looking at rehabbing buildings? What is the vision?
What is the vision? So right now I will say part of this pre-development will be part of that visioning process to see if it makes sense to do adaptive reuse or to do new construction. But Charles Street, we want to see down Charles Street, going past Port Tobacco Players, behind Port Tobacco Players, just looking at what lots are available around those areas so that we can be part of this community of arts organizations that are already sort of aggregated together.
And a cultural center, how big of a building are you looking at putting? I have not had an opportunity to look at the information that was just sent to us a few minutes prior to our meeting. So what is your vision? Are you just looking for the housing? Are you looking for, so you're talking about some of the areas to see whatever land is available.
Yeah.
And perhaps purchasing that. But sounds to be, kind of patchworky. How big of a building? Where are you looking? So you can kind of let us know your vision.
Sure, absolutely. So again, closer to where Port Tobacco Players is. And the idea is that we will be able to share space. So in this cultural center, we may not need a large theater space because we have, this theater that's nearby. But looking at where we can coordinate with some of these other arts organizations and expand on the programming there. So we are looking for a space that would at minimum be around 45,000 square feet. And then we have our classrooms, our studios in them. We have both dance and acting studios. We have private lesson studios. We have our training classrooms. We have a full space that is dedicated to arts and culture. And that is complementary to the other arts organizations on Charles Street.
Fantastic. What I would love to see is the Charles County Art Alliance, the local art council. I would love to see their letters of support before we start, before I sign on to a letter of support. I am all for the arts, but I want their feedback on there because they're the experts that live that. And, we are the first, we're the only municipality in Charles County that has workforce housing now. And that's something that the state has recognized there. So we are trying to do our part with workforce housing. But I will ask council one more time if any other questions, since we've had robust conversation.
Did you want to go first?
If you don't mind.
Okay.
I might fall asleep.
Please.
Thank you. I'm real quick, just please indulge. I am confused. So we still want to do a study, but we're talking about La Plata. We have no idea today if this art center is going to live in the town of La Plata.
It's not confirmed. It's
Okay,
like,
so the-
this is La Plata is our priority area, right?
Okay, all right. And you have letter of support from Commissioner President Collins?
Yes.
Okay, is this outside of the meeting that was had?
Yes.
Okay, and the senator from District 27, Senator Harris?
Yes.
So, okay, all right. Yeah, my concern is, workforce housing is super critical. It's in the early stages. There's just talks up in Annapolis about passing bills, just in terms of affordable housing in general.
Yeah.
Because it is super needed. And obviously you get affordable housing with higher density and more building, whether we want to hear that or not. There is no set point that this is going to benefit La Plata. While we got to be global, we're a municipality and we're the county seat in the county, and we want it to be a great county for everybody to work, play, and live. However, I thought I had it right coming in here, but now this presentation is making me seem like this is geared for us for a letter of support to support something that's going in the town, but we have no idea today if it's even going to end up in the town. So that's just my only real concern from listening to the conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe the last thing I'll say is that as I listen to this too, and think about partnerships, right? The constantly comes up in the things that we do, especially when we're talking about regional things and solving hard problems, which you are going after a hard problem. And I like the pairing of what you're trying to do. The challenge that I see with this is that in building those partnerships, that it's such a complex problem, and what is being done at the county, it concerns me that the county hasn't signed on in alignment with what they're doing. And it's been multiple years that they've been working this. They put out like some really good information on how they're going after it, how they're funding it. And I think that for you to be successful, there has to be more alignment with that. And I think the county and the town need to ultimately in the future be aligned on that as well. And I think that's the thing that's really going to drive this towards being more successful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so we are looking to, based on this conversation, I'm going to look to ask if you are at this time willing to support this letter of support as presented. And I'm looking for a consensus. Councilman Gutenberg.
No.
Councilman McCormick.
No.
Councilman Sampson.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson.
None at this time, but thanks for the presentation.
And
Thank
I would
you.
just love to see the collaboration with our local arts so that we know that they are going.
I will share that I am a former board member on the Charles County Arts Alliance too. So bringing that, all
Good.
of that into this. Yes.
Thank you
Mhm.
very
Thank
much. And at
you.
this time, I'm going to just say, I just need more information.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. All right. And next on the agenda is the budget work session follow-up, Mr. Stevens.
All right. Good evening, council. You may remember last Tuesday, it was St. Patrick's Day. And we spent the entirety of the day right here in this room. And again, I thanked you at the time. I want to thank you again this evening because this council showed up fully prepared, fully engaged. We moved through the entirety of the proposed budget, and we did it, and we got done an hour early, ahead of schedule. And the only way that happened was because everyone from the department heads that came in to present to all of the electeds who had clearly read the budget and came prepared with your questions, we were able to move efficiently. So just following up on that, to give you a quick preview of what you can expect coming forward, on April 14th, staff will be coming back to you, and we're going to present to you a summary of all of the changes. So any number that has changed in the budget between what was published in early March to what we're going to be asking you to adopt on May 12th, we will have a very simplified summary of changes. It'll be 1 or 2 sheets, whatever it is, but the account number, what was in the March document, and then what you're going to see in the May document. So it'll be very easy for you to line out. So that's what's coming up on the 14th. On the 28th, we'll have a couple of procedural hearings that need to happen. And then on May 12th, we will present to you a budget for your adoption. Okay, so that's what's coming. As we came out of the meeting last Tuesday, there were about 15 or so different action items that staff needed to go back and follow up with you on. And so what I'm going to do this evening is I'm going to walk through them, not all of them because some we're still working, but the ones that I have at least a partial answer for you, I'm going to give those to you tonight. And the reason why I started with what you can expect is because I'm not expecting you to be jotting down numbers or trying to remember. You don't have your budget books in front of you. Remember, any number that is changed, we're going to present to you in a very clear summary of changes here on April 14th. And frankly, some of the questions that you had weren't even numbers based. And so, but what I'm going to do is, like I said, we had about 15 follow-up items that we need to circle back with you on. And so I'm just going to walk through a handful of them here this evening. Starting with, we had a great conversation about automated enforcement, and we're talking about cameras there, whether they're speed cameras or red light cameras or things like that, and about creating a separate way to account for any fines that are collected by these automated devices, and how can we redirect those back into pedestrian safety initiatives, making sure that any money that was collected as a citation or a fine gets channeled back into the community as part of a safety effort. And so working with the town treasurer, what's going to happen and what you'll see in your budget coming forward is we are going to create an assigned account. We'll call it the Pedestrian Safety Initiative account, and it will be funded entirely by any revenues that are generated from those automated enforcement devices. Now, that's revenues generated, that's after we pay the bills. So some of those cameras have contracts and we got to pay the bills. So any residual funds will go into that account. It'll be transparent to all. And then we'll make sure that those funds are only applied to pedestrian safety initiatives such as, not an inclusive list, but such as sidewalks, crosswalks, and traffic calming improvements. Okay. And so any member of the public will be able to track any of those funds, where it sits in our account until there's a project where we can spend it, and then we'll spend it on a project. You'll be able to watch it be spent down. So, so you'll see that in May. Or actually, you'll see it in April, and then hopefully adopted in May. Okay. There were requests to have, there's going to be a wage compensation that's been proposed in this budget. And council had expressed a desire to see the scope of work because you had some very specific questions about what's going to be in that scope of work, not only as far as it will impact the wage and compensation plan for the town, but also there was another branch conversation about having staff explore opportunities to incentivize specific job classifications within the town, primarily at wastewater treatment or at public works. How can we incentivize those where we may or may not be seeing a turnover, and how can we try to stabilize that? So what we've done, and Monica incorporated into the scope of work, trying to feed two birds with one scone on this one, we incorporated language not only to conduct the wage and compensation study, but also look at providing and having a professional provide us with some of those incentive programs that we might consider as we look at those other positions. So I provided that scope of work to you via separate correspondence on March 19th. And if you have any questions or comments on that, please feel free to shoot those back to me and we'll take them under consideration. There was a conversation, two separate conversations under one umbrella, though. It was about potentially adding new employee structure to the town organization. One was a code enforcement position and one was a director of operations role. The staff response on that one, after going back and meeting with the team and talking about it, what we would like to do is we would like to conduct a workload assessment in those offices over the remainder of this year. And then if we feel that we can justify it and need it, then we will put it into the 28 budget and bring it back to you. So I don't anticipate trying to incorporate any of those changes into the FY27 budget. Moving on. Oh, there was a question about when Director Dooley, Don Dooley, was in here talking, he talked about a legacy business program and he went into great detail about the program itself, but there was a question from Councilor Johnson that came back about, well, wait a minute, this sounds and it feels a lot like the tourism zone. How come one's an ordinance, one is not? I sent to you earlier today, in fact, via separate correspondence, the response to that one. And basically the state legislation that passed it compelled us to pass that via ordinance. And so there's some options in there that we can consider. If council wants us to have an ordinance for legacy business program, we can certainly do that and incorporate that into the code. But again, I sent you the details on that. If you have any questions about that, feel free to shoot those back to me or raise them now and I'll jot them down and we can answer those. Okay. Okay, there was a question about the website and the code enforcement reporting. And specifically, there was a question about how many code enforcement submissions were made via our website and the cost of that tool. So the answers are, we've had that feature as part of our Civic Plus website since September of 2023. And since September of 2023, we have received 157 complaints categorized under the code compliance category. The request tracker module is a standard component of our website, so we don't pay any additional fees for it. So that's a good news story. I'm a little sad at the adoption, or maybe I should have a silver lining on it. Only 157 complaints in 2.5 years. That's great, right? I don't know. I feel like we can do a better job of getting the word out that's out there, because I feel like all of you and I receive more contacts on a monthly basis than that is averaging out to. But I really like when people use the website because it goes, as you heard in the budget meeting, it goes to everybody. Almost everybody on the leadership team gets it. So the ball's not going to get dropped. We're going to address the issue and we're going to get follow through to the resident quickly. So we'll work on trying to raise the visibility on that feature on our website and move it on the website to make it a little more obvious as well. There was a desire for a better understanding of how calls for service are captured and reported between the town and the county. The Chief Norris had a meeting with Charles County Sheriff's Office on March 19th. And tomorrow, Michelle, myself, and Karina, the town treasurer, we will be meeting here at Town Hall with Jake Dyer. He is the Director of Finance from Charles County. And we will attempt to get clarity on all of that, plus the other questions that you've already submitted to me. I provided those questions to Charles County. That's what precipitated the meeting. Mr. Dyer, he answered, I think, within less than an hour of me sending that email out to him with the list of questions we had. And he asked if it would be okay if he came to Town Hall and just sat down with us. And I said, that would be wonderful. So we appreciate that. In fact, I met with Deb Hall yesterday and I expressed my gratitude and thanks for the responsiveness of her staff. It's really amazing when you think about the interactions we've had with planning and growth management on the APFO, and now that's with the finance director. The Charles County staff has absolutely been accommodating in working with us and helping us to get our questions answered. So what's going to happen there is we're going to meet tomorrow. I'm going to do my very best to try and understand what I understand to be a very complicated formula that's applied to determine the tax differential. I'm going to have your questions in front of me. I'm going to get answers. I'm going to try and take the very best notes that I can possibly take. And then on the 14th, we're going to come back to your next council meeting and I'm going to try and answer all of your questions. But I think that I'm going to recognize that I probably won't be able to answer them to the depth of detail that Mr. Dyer can, but I'm going to do my very best. And then, as you know, we have a meeting on the 29th with the county to talk about tax differential. Also on the 14th, we'll talk about our unified messaging and how the 29th will play out. Okay, moving on. There was direction to add funding for resurfacing of the Wills Park basketball and tennis court. And so Public Works is developing that estimate and is getting it to finance to incorporate in the budget. That is underway this week. There was a desire to have the town staff really think hard and come up with a strategy for communications concerning the long-term benefits and cost avoidance of doing proactive maintenance on our infrastructure versus deferring maintenance on it, and how we can try to communicate that better to our constituents. Michelle and I tomorrow morning, first thing, in fact, early tomorrow morning, we're meeting with Laura from Foundry. She's our contracted public relations, and this is on our agenda to talk about with her. So we're gonna try to put some meat on the bones of a communication strategy. And I think this is really important as we get closer and closer to water conversations with the county. APFO is moving. We're still on track, touch wood, to bring water, sewer, and school seats in front of the Planning Commission on April 7th. It is still our intent to bring transportation in front of the Planning Commission May, June at the absolute latest, but in May to the Planning Commission. We've got, so APFO is moving. There's three components to solving water. There was the APFO, there's the supplemental water contract, and then the water conservation policies. So earlier this week, I staffed internally with the leadership team a draft of some very basic water conservation policies that, after it's been reviewed by staff, I'll bring back in front of this council, looking at targeting April 28th to bring those to you for your first look, to give staff direction on whether or not this is something that you want to consider. Because if you recall, when we talked about water in September, it's not about getting more to consume more. It's about demonstrating responsible growth and development management. That's the APFO. Supplemental water agreement. That's the long-term regional solution the state has desired, but then also the water conservation policies to demonstrate that we are taking it seriously. We're not just asking for more so we can consume more. So we'll be bringing those policies in front of you, hopefully on April 28th. Okay, and all of that is tied into this concept of a communication strategy, because as you look and see and hear communications about water, I think there's a lack of understanding about what exactly a supplemental water agreement with the county would mean, what those costs would be. And as we get further into negotiations and we have answers to those questions, like how much water is it and what is it going to cost, and all of those things, I think it'll be beneficial to us to have a mechanism already in place that we're trying to communicate more proactively with the community. So that starts tomorrow with our meeting with Laura. There was a straightforward question about, is the hospital a tax exempt entity? And the answer is yes. Karina, the town treasurer, confirmed that with the hospital directly. So yes, the hospital is tax exempt. And then finally, there was a desire to have staff take a look at introducing a 3% contribution plan, additional retirement 457 for Public Works employees. As this council knows, the history of LEOPS and the conversations that happened over the years, where it was the police department and Public Works were linked. Leops addressed the police department, which leaves us now with Public Works to address, and this was a potential solution. And so the ask was that we do a little bit of analysis. And so I've got some of that analysis for you here this evening. Again, you don't need to jot down numbers or anything like that. I think the short answer is, and the bottom line up front is that for about $65,000, we can address this and potentially create a supplemental retirement account of 457 for the Public Works employees. So HR and Finance have taken a look at that. They are looking at a 457 plan for the Public Works personnel. Current numbers would be about 35 Public Works employees would be eligible. And that's counting unfilled positions right now. So we have some positions that aren't filled, but we're including those in our calculations. And then I guess and I already gave you the cost is we're estimating about $65,000. HR and Finance are meeting with our vendor on April 1st to ensure that there are no additional considerations. And specifically, we need to find out if the town can be a single contributor. So that's a foundational question that we need to get answered. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. So we've got to get an answer to that. We're meeting with our vendor on April 1st. And we're also just going to clarify, because there's been a lot of recent changes with the passage of SCORE 2.0, and we just want to make sure that this will work. And so we're gonna nail that down and then get back to you. But we think at $65,000 we can afford it in this budget, and that it won't have a long-term impact, negative impact on sustainability of the budget. So we're going to go ahead and plug that number in. And then when you see it back in April and May, that number will be incorporated. And then we can give you more details about the program itself. So that's your update on about a dozen of those 15 items or so. There's still a handful that we're working. And I'm happy to, like I said, either take questions now, or if you want to follow up via email, we can do it either way.
All right, any questions right now?
No question, just a thank you. Really appreciate that feedback. That's excellent.
Go ahead.
Yes, just one question for you, Mr. Stevens. So with the tax differential, I have no idea how long that conversation is going to be. April 14th seems action-packed. I don't want to do extra work or anything. Does it make sense to have that in a special meeting just so we're talking about that separately, or do you think we can handle all that on April 14th?
I was talking to some of you before this meeting. That is going to be a full agenda. So
Yeah.
I guess, we serve at the will of council.
Okay.
I think council knows that. If it is council's desire to have a special meeting, we will make it happen.
Sure.
I would ask you to be flexible with your calendars, because that's always the
Yeah,
challenge.
that's the hard part.
I'll meet with you any time of the day or night. That's easy. But getting five
Yep.
of you with your schedules, that's the hard part. So let me just look around the table here. If that's the desire of council, I'm happy to try and get something scheduled, or we can
You don't think so?
just
I say go forward on the 14th.
Okay,
and
let's
have
do
an
it. Yep.
have an energy
That's
bar.
that's the only question. Again, I just want to make sure we don't get fatigued with that specific conversation. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Okay, we'll build the agenda strategically and maybe put that at the front. It is going to be a full agenda, and it is going to be a long night. So, but Michelle did recommend that we could start early potentially, and we have done that once before for a closed session. So maybe that's something we can consider. We'll follow up with you via email to see if that's something that council would like to consider or have staff look at. Okay.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes, two things. One, thanks for the update, or three things. Thanks for the update. The legacy business program, as I see it, we could give tax incentives for anything. I will feel comfortable if council does an ordinance or a resolution, like clearly outlining the parameters of how that program should work. As we did with the tourism zone, like it was the qualifications that defined the work scope. And if that's the will of the council, I think it'd be appropriate if we want to have some type of incentive that gets back to the community. Second thing, just real quick, resurfacing Wills Park. I think it was more about upgrading the equipment. Is it all inclusive with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I understood the intent from council. I think I said resurfacing in my notes, but
Okay,
no,
all right.
we understand that's to rehabilitate the basketball, tennis, and Pickleball? Is that pickle?
If that's what it
N- Not a player,
Yeah.
so.
Not yet. You're not old enough or you're too young right now.
All right, very well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We'll move on to our next agenda, which are our reports. Councilman Gutenberg.
Yes. All right. So, last week, no, this week, I'm sorry, this week, HPC meeting. So that meeting had a lot of discussion this week about the Maryland 250 event that's being planned this year. And so town staff, if you're interested, town staff gave a excellent kind of overview of a lot of things that part of historic preservation in our town is going to touch. A lot of events that we already have on the calendar. So it's going to be kind of sprinkled in. So that's a good thing to listen to. Also just got started on the procedures for the Centennial Plaque Program that we anticipate will be funded in this budget. Also related to historic preservation, I had the pleasure of going out to the McConchy one-room schoolhouse with several members of the council this past weekend, which was a reschedule. And boy, what a nice day to be rescheduled to. It was beautiful out Sunday, and it was really great to see the amount of work that people working historic preservation in the county have done largely with volunteer effort to really just it's really fantastic. If you have a chance at the fairgrounds when it's open to go out there and see it, I highly recommend it. And then I'd like to just say too, in our report, we have a written report in here, and I'm not surprised to see that we have 3 people who are members of our boards and commissions that are running for various offices. And it doesn't surprise me. I'm remembering back to the night we were in here in the middle of the week in January. And I sat in the back of this room and I had this unexpected reaction to seeing, we had one night, we had virtually every member of a board and commission in here and a good number of the council were here. And just seeing that all of the seats in here filled with people who are actively engaged with the things that we do in local government it was a really interesting energy in the room. And so it doesn't surprise me. We have people running for county office. We have people running for state office and national office. And so I wish them all well. And I think that's great. And then the last thing I wanted to say is I wanted to touch on our public's comment this evening. So I do want to talk about the Route 6 project that the state is undertaking. And I want to correct a couple things and acknowledge a couple of things. So there have been traffic studies and safety studies on the Charles Street corridor. And the most recent one was done by the county in 2023. And that was based on statistics from 2017 to 2021. And that stretch of road is in the top 10 of the county's most dangerous roadways, and they're called KSI. So this is, they classify the roadways in Charles County by the amount of killed or serious injury accidents in the county. And then they lay those over a map. And so this stretch of highway, there's a real community need for safety improvements along that stretch because it is in what they call in the study, the high accident network, right? And so that's the genesis of what the state is directing funding towards this project on. And just along that stretch during that study period, there were 23 either killed or seriously injured accident results along that stretch. And that is really the genesis of what that project is going after. Now, having said that too, they have done community engagement. If you go to their website, I haven't gone in person to them, but they did make themselves available. I think there's even pictures of them doing engagements down at the Baldus building, right? So they have been in town. And what I have found just through personal experience, they were here in the past year, and actually they weren't in the room, but they were on the camera as I remember now. They were here briefing us on the project. And after that, my experience was I engaged with the project manager on a few questions that I had. Found them amazingly responsive, right? They were very quick to answer and fully address things. And so now having said all of that, right? Like acknowledging the community need, and that part of our network, our walkable downtown, why it's so important that we improve safety there. the town is also getting a huge benefit because we're doing some water projects that the state is going to help fund. So there's a huge benefit there. But we have to acknowledge that the business owners along that area too do have concerns about the project. And what I would encourage you to do, and I'm basing this based on my own experience with interacting with the state project manager, is I think they will be open to engagement, and I hope that we can find ways that compromises can be made, because while the business community is identifying and some of the property owners are identifying some concerns that they have, we also cannot ignore the real safety concerns with both pedestrian and vehicle traffic along that corridor, which is being addressed by that project. And I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Councilman McCormick?
Yes, thank you. Earlier today, a couple of us had the opportunity to meet with a police accrediting agency about our La Plata Police Department, answer a couple of questions and give our thoughts, our opinions, and then hear some of the feedback from that agency that was doing a checkup on our department. It's no secret, a couple of days ago, we had a pretty tragic event occur in our community. And again, I want to thank the La Plata Police Department for the quick response there and ask everybody to pray for the victims' families. Again, without that very quick response time by our police, and again, as Councilman Gutenberg talked about earlier, partnership, we were able to find the alleged individual and hopefully bring them to justice. So thank you very much for all the work that you do and that Charles County does in the partnership we have there. Ag Day is today, so very important to remember that as Southern Maryland, very important. Obviously, the lifeblood of our Southern Maryland community. So thank you to all the farmers that put the meat and the food on the table for us. So thank you for all that you do. Tomorrow is Maryland Day. I don't want to steal Councilman Johnson's thunder over there, but beautiful tie, way to represent. Really appreciate it. That is a solid Maryland tie over there. And thanks for recognizing that. As Mr. Stevens alluded to in his report, St. Patrick's Day was on the 17th, but more importantly, I can't believe I'm saying that as a McCormick, we talked about the budget that day. So that was probably the most important thing that happened that day, despite all the festivities that may have happened afterwards in the McCormick household. But I want to thank the staff as well. Mr. Stevens, you thanked us, but I want to thank the staff for coming prepared. Documents like I made the comments on that day were straightforward and really appreciate that. So thank you for that. Final thing I want to talk about was I had the opportunity to meet with Kings Grant HOA a couple of weeks ago. I talked about that in one of my council reports, but we've had 2 follow-up meetings since then that Mr. Stevens, Ms. Minor, the Kings Grant HOA and the Kings Grant HOA legal representatives were present for. I think they were very productive conversations, and they were productive for 2 reasons. One is I think Mr. Stevens did a great job representing the town and what we can and cannot do, really setting the left and right limit to, hey, I understand in the past the town may have worked on this easement or been in this area, but if we don't own it, there's no way we can take the risk going in there because of all the liabilities. And I think the HOA did a great job of coming prepared with their asks, their requests, and then figuring out, okay, if these are the areas of concern we have, we're going to come back to you as a town and figure out if we own those easements. We can go ahead with a plan there to address. And if we don't own those easements, how does the town actually get those in the future, right? And there's a couple issues with Kings Grant, the former ownership and all that. But having that conversation, rebuilding that trust, Mr. Stevens really leading that conversation as the town's rep there. I think we're going to come to some solutions here in Kings Grant that I think, frankly, a lot of HOAs are probably facing as well. And I think this is the first of many conversations. I'm sure you're having a ton of them with the whole town. But this is the first of many conversations we're going to have there. So I want to recognize that and say thank you for representing the town well there. And thank you to the HOA for coming with very clear requests as to, hey, this is what we want addressed. As an HOA, this is what we want to prioritize. And then Mr. Stevens going, okay, well, this is what the budget has allocated. I'll get with my Public Works Department and get you an answer there. So thank you for all that. Really, really appreciate it.
Councilman Johnson. All right. What don't you want to say where you were on Sunday?
I figured you.
Oh, yeah, I will. Okay, thanks. So I have just a few things on my report. I had the great privilege of doing some senior interviews at McDonough High School. Boy, our future looks great on there. A lot of excited seniors are graduating May 15th. They reminded me several times on that. I've been working on the participating on the legislative committee for the Chamber of Commerce. They just had crossover day up there in Annapolis. And it's kind of astounding. There were a little over 1,400 bills presented in the Senate and almost 2,100 bills in the House. And I don't know how many crossed over, but they are coming up to a crunch time on that. So they will be busy for a few more weeks. along with Councilman Johnson and Councilman Gutenberg, we spent a little bit of time over there at Charles County Fairgrounds for the one-room schoolhouse, the McConchy Schoolhouse. It was a packed house, and it was really neat to see a piece of history that is being preserved. Some upcoming events that I will be participating in is tomorrow I will speak with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders over there at ANS and tell them a little bit about local government. Coming up is Ice Cream with the Easter Bunny on Monday, April 6th from 11 to 1. So make sure that you find out a little bit more on a website for that. On April 11th, I will be up in Annapolis for the If I Were Mayor presentation, where 12 4th graders will be recognized for their essays and their winning essays on what they would do if they were mayor. And they had to look 90 years in the future. So I am so excited to read some of the winning essays on that one. Also that day, there will be a grand opening ribbon cutting for Dash-In, the new Dash-In on 301 and Charles Street. Farmers Market opens April 4th, Saturday, so that is rapidly approaching. And then Celebrate La Plata is on Saturday, April 25th from 12 to 4, so mark your calendar there. I see one of the scouts back there, which I am sure he's probably getting citizenship and the community merit badge. Very good. So you had a great one to report on. Yes, I was a merit badge counselor for many, many years, so I understand what you're going through. And then lastly, I would like to say happy birthday to one of our residents, Miss Gertrude Young, 100 years young on this Saturday, and she will be getting a certificate from us recognizing her birthday. So happy birthday, Miss Young. And with that, that concludes my report. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Hey, Chuck.